the Strong Baby Mama Show. I'm your host, Cortega Collins. Thank you so much for tuning in to join us tonight. The average concern of a 14-year-old is usually the latest gear or having the most up-to-date latest cell phone. Well, imagine adding to those concerns caring for your infant child, wondering what are they going to wear, how am I going to feed them, what are we going to do next? Well, I've heard that one of the greatest indicators of poverty is having a child before you're married. Well, our next guest shattered those statistics by not only earning 4 college degrees, but also earning her doctorate degree. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Jennifer Sims. Hey, great, how are you?
Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's so nice to see you.
Yes.
So, Jennifer,
Yes.
Dr. Sims,
Yes.
congratulations
Thank you.
on that major accomplishment.
All praises to God.
Yes.
All praises to God.
Yes. So we're just gonna jump right in.
Okay.
Tell us, me and the viewers, how old you were when you conceived and delivered your first child.
Okay, so I was 13 years old when I got pregnant.
Wow.
And I had my son at age 14, 31 years ago today. Today he turned 31. So I want to tell my son happy birthday. I love you. I'm so proud of you.
All right, happy birthday, Chris. Okay, so Dr. Sims, when I first conceptualized having this show, you were the first person that came to my mind.
Oh, thank
Because
you.
I have seen you going through your trials and triumphs, and just to remain consistent, always so positive, presenting such a positive version of yourself. So I just want to tell you that I admire you.
I appreciate
so
that.
much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you are amazing, a phenomenal young woman. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of the show. Okay, so let's go back. So you said that you were 13 when you conceived your first child. So
When I got pregnant.
When you got pregnant.
I was 13 and I actually had him at 14.
Okay.
So that's obviously at the age of 14, having a baby is just, you're not thinking about it. You know, you're thinking about playing, getting in trouble for coming in late. Not only was that age unconventional, but the events leading up to my mom and the father of my children's mom finding out were just incredible.
Okay.
So I was in the 8th grade, and there was my counselor there, and she had been observing me for a while. She had started asking my teachers questions, asking my friends questions, observing me in the lunchroom. So I come home from school one day, and my mom says, your counselor calls and she's concerned. Your grades are still good, but by pure observation and speaking with your friends and your teachers, she thinks you're pregnant.
Wow.
And so she says, you're not going to go to school tomorrow. We're going to the doctor. So we went to the doctor, and I found out I was pregnant. He handed us a card for me to go get prenatal care and to see an OBGYN. We did that the very next day. When I went to get examined by the OBGYN, he said he could not examine me because my son's head was coming out.
Oh.
I immediately was admitted to Regional Hospital, which is no longer open. It was on Delmar, and 2 weeks later I had my son. I was 6 months pregnant. He was 3 pounds 15 ounces, so he was premature, and he had to stay in the hospital for 3 weeks.
Wow.
So you got this counselor, and thank God for that counselor, because a whole chain of events could have occurred differently. Who reaches out, who felt something that was different about me, except for my grades. I've always kind of been really, really intelligent academically because I love learning. So reached out to my mom. My mom took me to the doctor. Went to another doctor. No, you got to go on bed rest. Your son's trying to come out, and 2 weeks later I had him.
Wow.
So yeah.
So you just answered my next question. I was gonna ask if you ever felt any pressure to terminate the pregnancy, if that was ever a conversation that was had. So before the grandparents and even the father had an opportunity to react to the news, Chris was already here.
And so the father, he contacted me. I called him and I told him that I was in the hospital. So my mom knew, of course, but his mom didn't know yet.
Wow.
So he was getting brought up to the hospital after school to see me. On the day that I had our son, he woke up and he told his mom, because she knew that we were dating, he said, "Mom, Jennifer's in the hospital." She said, "For what?" He said, she had a baby. And she said, "Whose baby?" And he said, "Mine." So there was no planning. This was like unconventional. No baby shower. My mom, his mom, they were the caregivers. My grandma, they're scrambling to get clothes, to get diapers, and that's how it happened.
Wow. That sounds like something that you see on television.
Yeah.
Remember that show, I Didn't Know I Was Pregnant?
Yeah.
And I never thought, I'm like, how could somebody go through life not knowing they're pregnant? But to hear this story.
Well, you know what? I felt, so people ask me that all the time. I felt changes in my body. But again, 14, the only thing that I should have been doing is getting punished for coming in late. I didn't know what those changes were. You know, I did have a menstrual for several of those months, you know, and I'm walking and I'm seeing myself get a little bit, I was rather small in the 8th grade. So I'm seeing myself get a little bigger, but I guess because I didn't know what being pregnant meant, I just went on. But, you know, again, I look back and things happen for a reason, and I just thank God for my counselor. I was so mad at the time, but I just thank God for her.
Right. Well, we're just going to take a pause for the cause and say,
sure.
Educators, if you're watching, people who are in the school system, you see how important your job is. This counselor potentially saved a child's life just by pure observation. So I think that is wonderful that she was able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so that's great. Okay, so let's talk a little bit then, Jen, about moving forward. What was it like for you? Tell us about the challenges that you may have experienced going through the rest of junior high school, high school. Were there any people that ostracized you? Were there any people that, you know, didn't want to, that were no longer your friends? How did you handle the backlash of being a teenage mom?
So, again, I was in the 8th grade. So he was born today in February. I spent the remaining 3 months of 8th grade getting work brought to me by a teacher. You know, they had teachers for, I guess, people that had children. So I didn't have to go back to 8th grade where I was attending school. I went to high school. And you know what? I was received well. I think that it was unique for my peers. You know, they had questions for me, but my peers didn't treat me bad, but the folks, everyday normal folks in society did. You know, one thing about it is at 14 you can't drive. At 14 you can't vote. So, you know, you've heard of women, single moms having children at 16, 17, but I was 14. You know, so I was my child was under the care of my mom, his father's mom, and my grandma, you know, and so I felt bad. I think mostly the pressure was on me because I felt like a burden. I knew that I was in love with this baby that needed me to be there, but at the same time, I'm already seeing my mom and his mom, they're sacrificing for us, their children, and then here we brought this extra child in. But I knew right away that I loved my baby and that I was going to make good on what I did. So my peers, not so much. I had a lot of my friends come over after school and they played with my son, and you know, they encouraged me to be strong. Obviously you're going to have people talking. You know, I'll say this about me, Cortega, for all of my limits, you have to know your limits and strengths that is an individual. I've never heard about what people have said about me.
That's good.
You know, I never have, but I cared that in that situation where you would think that you would have support from outside people, that some outside adults, took it upon themselves to make whispers, because obviously you have a child at 14, you're going to continue to have children, multiple fathers. Those were the stereotypical things that you would hear. And so who would I hear this from? People in the community. My son and I would often get on the bus. I would take him back and forth with me sometimes to the library, because I wanted that weight off of the father's mom and off of my mom and grandma as much as possible. And so people would say, who is that, your little brother? And that's a fair question. I look
Right.
like a baby, and it's my child, and I would get whispers on the bus, or your baby, how old are you? So those are the type of things that I experienced. And I think adversity for me made me go harder.
That's a perfect segue into my next question, was how did you prevent those things from deterring you from accomplishing your goals? Because that can be pretty heavy for a 14-year-old to dealing with the pressures and the stigma of being a teen mom. So how did you keep those things, those comments, those looks, those jeers from accomplishing your goals?
I just, looking at my son every day, looking at my mom every day, looking at who would become my future mother-in-law when she came to get him. I had a village of supporters helping me, and I know that it was hard for them, but they stood up tall and they stood the course, and so again, always loving to learn. I'm a lifelong learner. I love going to school, but I had this little child that I couldn't wait to get home to either. So, going to school, learning, and just having in my mind that I have to make good on what I did. I have to show my mom, I have to show his other grandma that I see what you all are doing, and please know that it's going to pay off, that it's going to pay off, that I'm going to make something of myself.
And that you did. It paid off for you hugely in a major way. So that is wonderful.
Thank you.
So Dr. Sams, tell me how you were able to, because obviously being a teen mother, you may have had to miss out on some things that are typical for a teenager. Some of the things that they get to experience, maybe going to the mall or, just hanging out with friends sometimes. Tell me how you dealt with the sacrifice of your youth. Explain how you were able to handle that.
Sure. So I dealt with it. The times my good girlfriend, we've been friends 25, 26 years. Her mom was a bonus mom. She also went to high school with us and middle school. Her mom was a bonus mom. So I hung out at her house on the weekends, and if we wanted to go places, Chris was included. If I didn't want to take Chris, the bonus, my bonus mom said, hey, leave him here, and my mom would keep him, but I felt, so you're keeping him while I'm at school on the days she wasn't working, because she worked. My grandma's keeping him when my mom has to work. His father's mom is keeping him. So I dealt with it. I understood. I don't think that I let that get me down, that I couldn't participate in the things that not having a child, because that was one of the sacrifices that I did have to make. And again, when I did want to get out, my bonus mom and my mom were willing to say, okay, but my mom made it crystal clear. She said a couple of things to me. Although you have a child, you're still my child, and there are rules in this house, and if I don't feel like keeping him, then, that's something that you're going to have to deal with. And that was absolutely correct. That was absolutely correct. So even sometimes when, his other grandma volunteered to keep him, if I wanted to do something, sometimes I just said no, but they were very supportive, and I didn't take that for granted. I didn't take advantage of anything. I really, and I had no reason to. This was me being harder on myself. I love my son, and we were going to do this regardless, and God knew that. But I felt like a burden, again, seeing my mom work, seeing his mom work, my grandma was older, so the routine was this for me to go to school in the mornings. On the mornings my mom had to work. My uncle would come and pick up my son and take him to my grandma.
Okay.
He'd take me to school, high school, and then I'd get home from high school and call my uncle and say I'm here, and he'd get my son and bring him back to me. On the days my mom didn't work, obviously she kept him. So we're doing this routine for 4 years. That's a long time.
Right. 9th
grade through 12th grade. That's a long time, you know. And so the goal, I was moving forward. I'm going to go to the community college. I wound up going to the community college, and they had daycare there,
okay.
which was so much pressure off my mom, I felt.
Okay.
You know.
So when you went to community college, so because there was childcare there, there was a hindrance that you did not have to overcome. That was one thing that you didn't have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's another teen mom that may be watching who thinks, oh, I can't go to college because there's nobody there who can watch my baby for me,
mm-hmm.
there is childcare available
Absolutely.
at some of the community colleges.
And the community colleges back then, the childcare was available, and they went by your income. At that time, I worked in the mall, and I made $6.75. They didn't utilize my mom's income, you know, or my stepdad's income. And so my son would be at the daycare, at the community college. I would get him out to eat lunch with him in the lunchroom, go back to class, and for that day, I may have paid $6.
Wow. Okay, so that was wonderful. You used that
mm-hmm.
service
mm-hmm.
as a stepping
Absolutely.
stone to help you to get to the next level.
Absolutely.
So it is possible
Yeah.
with having a child so young to still go on, further your education,
mm-hmm.
get a career, and move forward.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a hindrance. It doesn't have to be a hindrance
Absolutely.
to you having a baby young. So let me ask you this, Dr. Sims. So at 14 years old, and you talked about statistics, you know, that people were saying, oh, this is just the first of many, and she's going to have children by multiple men. But you didn't do that. That's not your story.
No.
So tell me how you were able to avoid becoming the stereotype.
So, again, just going through high school, the father of my son, of Chris's father, and I were kind of back and forth dating. You know, one thing about it is we were young. We made a lot of mistakes, you know, but we dated on and off, and so he was still trying to figure out. We want. Sometimes as women, we want guys to be where we are, and what I'm saying to that is, once I had the baby, I'm just waiting to get closer to 18, and I'm like, we're gonna get married,
yeah,
you know, because for me there was no one else,
right.
You know, we have this baby. I'm not looking at anyone else, you know. We've been together for 5 years now, even though those 5 years was me being 14, him being 15, but I wanted to be married, and you know, shame on me because I think I forced that on him. He's still trying to figure out, I'm this dad, you know, I don't know if I want to settle down, you know. He was liking other women, which is naturally so because we were young,
right.
You know, and having a child isn't really what's traditional. And so we had broken up when I graduated from high school, and I went to the community college. And he started seeing someone else, and he had a daughter. He has a beautiful young daughter. And now she's, I think she's 25, but has a beautiful young daughter. So they were together for a while, and then I didn't speak to him. You know, I was in my feelings. Let's be clear. You know, one thing about, I had the child, I wanted to be married. He had other plans, and I was emotional. You know, when you're that young, your emotional intelligence has not developed.
Okay.
And then if you don't have God involved, you know, things just go haywire. So I went about my way at the community college, and we wind up getting back together. So I graduated from the community college in 90. I went to the community college from 93, I believe, to 95. So we got back together, and we were together on and off. And again, being young, I gave him an ultimatum, and you can't do that to me.
Okay.
You can't do that to me. And so I was living on my own with Chris, and I said, you know, I don't want to shack up. And I actually termed it, Cortega, I said, I'm going to be the Black Cinderella. I'm not going to be a statistic.
Okay.
You know,
so you had it made up in your mind that you were not going to perpetuate the stereotype.
Absolutely. So we ended up getting married, and we got married in 97. And a month after we got married, I got pregnant, and our daughter was born in 1998.
Okay. So in essence, it seemed like you were becoming that Black Cinderella because you had your Prince Charming, and you in your mind, you guys were going to live happily ever after. Okay. So going back to what you said about him moving on, in retrospect, would you have reacted to him moving on in a different relationship the way that you did, or would you do things differently?
I reacted like I did because I was young,
right?
And you know, we don't own people, and because I had my son with him, I thought that gave me leverage, you know, to say no, you should be over here, you know. But looking at it, hindsight being 2020, because we were young, we didn't develop what we should have had to say, you know what, if we just need to co-parent, let's do that.
Okay.
So we got married, we tried to make it work, and it just, again, I think it was because of that ultimatum, it just didn't work.
Okay.
You know, we stayed married for 10 years and then we divorced.
Okay.
Shortly after that, again, when we talk about even my son's trajectory, his trajectory, shortly after that, he died 12 months later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but what you're saying though is that rushing into a marriage with someone, or thinking that just because you have a child that the person has to marry you, is not always a healthy choice if the relationship is not healthy beforehand. Getting married is not going to turn it into a
right. What he had the right to do was choose. If he wanted to not be you, we need to get married, or we can't do this. He had the right to choose, and he also had the right to be able to co-parent with me, his son.
Okay, and that's a great point. Co-parenting and being able to do that successfully for the success of the children. So. That is a great story, Dr. Sims, and we have got to get you back to talk about the co-parenting portion of it.
Thank you.
And you are just, again, a phenomenal woman, and I think so encouraging for other single moms who may be going through something similar, who may have been a single mom and thought that that was the end for them, when, as we can see from Dr. Sims, that can just be the beginning. It doesn't have to be the end of your story. Dr. Sims, it has been such an honor to have you on the show. We have to end now, but before we do, I would like for you, if you wouldn't mind, to just look into the camera and speak to any other single mom, whether she was a teen mom, whatever kind of single mom, whatever circumstances cause her to be single, and she's struggling and she thinks that she just cannot move forward and be success in life. Would you look into the camera and say, give any advice you would to a single mom?
Sure. To you single mothers out there, I would just like to say you are not alone. There is help. Ask for help. Find out what your resources are. No matter what, keep your head up. Have confidence. You have now become a role model for someone that God has trusted you with. He has made you a steward over his child. Some people can't have children, so you keep your head up, you stay encouraged, you do the best that you can. It's going to be challenging. It's not going to be easy, but it's not going to be easy whether you're single or married, because both parents bring something that's unique to that child. So either way, it's going to be challenging, but it's going to be so well worth it. And if you need any reason to keep going, you look into the eyes of your child.
So that's the end of tonight's show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And we would like for you to subscribe to our channel, Share this video with people that you may know can benefit. We will be coming to you every week with other success stories of other strong baby mamas who have taken that term and transformed it into something that's a lot more positive. So we appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in, and remember, you're stronger than you think.